Tonight, I invite you to Olympus, where dreams are shaped in fire and magic flows through every stone. This is the story of Hephaestus, the god who, under a sky full of falling stars, decides to create a wonder never seen before. Let yourself drift among the clouds and ancient halls, where even the gods are searching for beauty, harmony, and light. Close your eyes, take a slow breath, and let this myth carry you to peaceful sleep. It was the deepest hour of night, the air on Olympus still and silver, every breath carrying the cool scent of laurel and the faint tang of the sea from afar. The mountain, home of the gods, soared impossibly high, its peaks veiled in wisps of drifting cloud, its slopes aglow with starlight and streaked with the golden trails of falling meteors. From the valleys below, Olympus appeared as a palace of dreams, suspended between earth and the endless sky, its marble pillars gleaming as if carved from moonlight itself. On this rare night, a hush lay over the halls of the gods, a quiet so profound it seemed as if Olympus itself was holding its breath. Even the ever-reveling Dionysus, god of wine and wild joy, felt his laughter soften, his goblet raised not for boisterous feasts, but in a silent toast to the wonders spinning above. Every shadow flickered with mystery, every golden lamp glimmered like a miniature star. Ancient legends whispered that such nights belonged to creators, to those daring enough to shape something new from the silence. This is the hour, the winds seem to murmur, when dreams may become real. Zeus, king of all gods, stood alone at the highest balcony. Cloaked in shadow, he watched the heavens as meteors skated across the dark, their golden trails painting fleeting wishes onto the night's canvas. His mighty hands, that once shaped storms and shook mountains, now rested quietly on the cold marble, lost in thought. In that stillness, even the all-powerful Zeus seemed small, not because he was diminished, but because his grandeur dissolved into the boundless beauty of the cosmos, and he was merely a dreamer in a world that hummed with possibility. Elsewhere, Athena lingered by a long table, a silver stylus tracing maps of future wars and plans for mortal kingdoms. Her eyes gleamed with sharp light as she calculated destinies, the hem of her cloak stirring with the faintest wind from the open colonnade. Artemis, goddess of the hunt, moved like moonlight through the halls, her senses stretched to distant forests. She heard the softest tread of a doe, the quiet breath of wolves, the chorus of insects under the night's spell. Sometimes she paused, listening not only to the wild, but to the beating heart of Olympus itself. Tonight, even the air was filled with magic, a fine golden dust drifting from the trails of falling stars, settling on the columns and the hidden gardens. Yet beneath all this grandeur, in a deep and lonely forge carved into the mountain's very bones, a single light flickered long after the palace lamps had dimmed. There, young Hephaestus, often feeling set apart from the other gods, toiled in solitude. His hands, though marked by flame and toil, moved with the precision of an artist and the boldness of a god. Around him lay sketches and models, strange birds of gold, clockwork flowers, elegant chains that jingled with a hidden melody. Hephaestus could not sleep. His heart beat with a fierce yearning, a restless fire that would not be soothed. Something in the starlit air called to him, a promise that tonight, of all nights, he might glimpse the shape of a new idea, something never seen before, neither by gods nor mortals. He bent over the anvil, striking metal with careful blows, watching the sparks leap and twist into the dark. What if I could forge a gift worthy of Olympus? He wondered. Something to outlast any feast, any legend, something that would make even the stars themselves pause and wonder. The sound of his hammer echoed through the tunnels, mingling with the hush of sleeping gods above. In that quiet forge, Hephaestus's thoughts soared higher than the mountain, carried by the very dust of meteors that rained upon the world. His work became a prayer, a call to the unknown, an invitation for magic to take form. Outside, the last meteor fell, its golden trail fading at the horizon. The wind stilled, the sky glowed softly, and the ancient mountain listened. On this enchanted night, the story of Hephaestus, born in fire, destined for greatness, was only just beginning. While the rest of the gods rested in their radiant palaces, sinking into dreams and laughter, Hephaestus descended into the heart of Olympus. There, hidden deep within the mountain's roots, was his workshop, a world apart from the sunlight and splendor above. Here, the air was thick with the scent of metal, coal, and ancient resin. shadows flickered along the smooth stone walls, cast by the dance of ever-burning flames. In this underground sanctuary, every corner glimmered with the promise of creation. Tools lined the shelves, hammers of all sizes, silver and gold tongs, molds shaped like leaves and waves, rods of precious metal stacked side by side. Each instrument was a work of art, shaped by Hephaestus's own hands, carrying the memory of 100 nights of labor. At the heart of the forge, a great fire burned, blue and steady, never dying, fed by secret veins of the earth. In its depths, Hephaestus sometimes imagined he could glimpse forgotten legends, the laughter of old gods, the rise and fall of kingdoms, the silent promise of stars that had yet to fall. The flames cast shifting light over the stone floor, painting the walls with restless shadows. Hephaestus loved this place. It was here, in the solitude of the forge, that he became more than a god, he became a creator. With every ring of hammer against anvil, with every hiss of molten bronze, his soul found peace, and his thoughts took flight. No courtly feasts, no laughter from the marble halls above, could match the comfort he found in the steady rhythm of his work. Yet tonight, the familiar rhythm was broken. Even as he shaped metal with practiced ease, the comforting familiarity of the workshop seemed far away. Loneliness crept into his heart, a silent ache, sharper than any blade. In the echoing clangor, Hephaestus's thoughts drifted far from the forge, reaching out to the distant stars above Olympus, to dreams he could not yet name. He set his hammer aside, studying his calloused hands, marked by years of tireless labor. Is my strength only in weapons for the gods, he wondered. Or could these hands give the world a beauty so rare, so wondrous, that even Aphrodite herself would marvel? The question lingered, burning brighter than the fire at his feet. For a long moment, the only sound was the crackle of the flames, the slow cooling of metal, the distant sigh of earth beneath Olympus. Then, as if summoned by longing, a soft whisper stirred the air, a breath of inspiration, as gentle as the distant voice of the Muses. It danced on the currents of the forge, winding through the workshop like the promise of dawn. Hephaestus listened, heart pounding. The whisper was not words, but possibility, a spark at the edge of thought, urging him to dream beyond swords and shields, beyond the gifts the gods demanded. It called him to imagine, to risk creation for the sake of beauty itself. A vision formed in his mind, something delicate and breathtaking, a masterpiece not of war, but of wonder. He saw shining metal spun into the shape of flowers, jewels catching the firelight, sculptures that seemed to breathe. The longing to create, to astonish even the gods, rose within him like a tide. He turned back to his tools, the forge's light blazing anew. With every beat of his heart, the loneliness faded, replaced by hope and fierce determination. If the world above slumbered, down here, beneath the mountain, a new legend was beginning to take shape, one that would change not just Hephaestus, but all of Olympus. And somewhere in the quiet, the Muses smiled, knowing that the night's true work had only just begun. As the fire in Hephaestus's workshop blazed higher, the shadows retreated and the air itself shimmered. A scent unlike any other, flowers blooming at midnight, honey dripping from golden combs, the dust of ancient scrolls, filled the forge. The blue flames flickered with otherworldly light, and from that glow, shapes began to emerge, graceful and radiant, moving as if they were woven from the very fabric of inspiration. One by one, the Muses appeared, the daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, guardians of poetry, music, dance, and all that stirs the soul. They did not arrive as ordinary visitors. Instead, they entered as spirits of creation, gliding through the illuminated air like dancers in a sea of light. Each muse was both herself and part of the whole, a living chorus, a symphony of dreams. Clio, with a smile as gentle as dawn, stepped forward and offered Hephaestus a scroll, its edges traced with silver. The memory of the world's wonders, she whispered, waits for hands bold enough to shape it anew. Euterpe placed a gleaming silver lyre in his hands, her voice ringing like morning bells. What you forge can sing, if you dare let it. Talia brought laughter, a bubbling, sweet sound that seemed to chase away the last shadows from the corners of the workshop. Even joy, she said, is a creation, fragile and brilliant. The other muses joined in, each touching Hephaestus in a different way. One leaned close, breathing stories of the distant past, another murmured riddles of the future, a third traced his arm and spoke of the secret balance of harmony and beauty. Their words spun around him, weaving dreams from embers and air, fueling his yearning for something more. Together, they posed their challenge: can you forge something more than weapons for war? Will your fire shape not only swords and shields, but a wonder that will sing even in silence? Is there enough flame in your heart, Hephaestus, for something as light, as beautiful, as unearthly as music itself? As they spoke, visions filled his mind, glimmering orbs drifting through a midnight sky, delicate ornaments that sang with the touch of wind, a clay star, unfinished, waiting for its place among the constellations. Hephaestus felt his doubts fall away, replaced by awe and longing. For the first time, he saw not just the fire and metal, but the possibility of forging light itself, of giving Olympus a gift no one had ever dreamed. He looked at the Muses, their eyes bright with hope and mischief, and nodded solemnly. "I accept your challenge," he said, his voice strong with resolve. "I will seek out a material worthy of the gods. I will create a star for Olympus, a marvel that holds the fire of my forge, the beauty of your music, and the enchantment of the night." The Muses smiled, their laughter swirling like a gentle wind through the workshop. Euterpe strummed her lyre, sending shimmering notes into the air, while Calliope offered a blessing in words that glowed like living gold. "Then go, Hephaestus. Search for what is rare and pure. Let your creation be not just seen, but heard, and felt, and remembered." The workshop filled with an energy Hephaestus had never known, an expectation, a promise. As the Muses faded back into the glow, their presence lingered, a warmth in his bones and a song in his heart. Hephaestus gathered his tools, knowing that the path ahead would not be easy, but feeling for the first time that he was no longer alone in his quest. The true journey of the smith had begun, not only to shape metal, but to shape wonder. And as the last echo of the Muses' laughter faded, the stars above Olympus seemed to burn a little brighter, waiting for the gift Hephaestus would bring. The first light of dawn crept softly across the slopes of Olympus, painting the rocks and meadows with a golden haze. Hephaestus emerged from the shadows of his workshop, the echo of the Muses' words still ringing in his ears. In his hand was a sturdy staff, carved from mountain ash, and in his heart a restless longing, to create something no god or mortal had ever seen before. He began his journey in silence, his footsteps steady on the dew-soaked grass. Olympus stretched before him, vast and mysterious, wild olive groves, streams whispering over ancient stones, meadows where the rarest lotuses bloomed. Yet Hephaestus was not searching for beauty alone. He sought a clay infused with magic, a material where the strength of the earth, the soul of the waters, and the light of the stars were woven into one. He wandered for hours, sometimes pausing to kneel beside clear streams, scooping up handfuls of wet earth and letting the water run between his fingers. Each time, he listened, hoping to hear the faint music of possibility, the echo of creation itself. But every piece of clay he touched felt ordinary, too silent, too heavy. "Not yet," he murmured, wiping his hands on his tunic. "There must be more." As he crossed a windswept ridge, Hephaestus encountered an old shepherd, tending his flock on the high slopes. The shepherd's beard was white as mountain snow, his eyes keen and kind. Beside him, his granddaughter played a reed pipe, sending a sweet, haunting melody drifting into the morning air. "Tell me, child of fire," the old shepherd said, recognizing the young god by the glow in his eyes, "what do you seek on these lonely heights?" "I am searching for a clay unlike any other," Hephaestus replied. "One that has touched the stars." The shepherd nodded. "There is a place," he whispered, "where the sky once rained fire. They say a falling star struck the earth high above, on the ancient crest. The ground there is not like any other, dark, and speckled with light, as if it remembers the night the heavens came down." Hephaestus thanked the shepherd and his granddaughter, and followed their directions up the winding path. The mountain grew steeper, the air thin and sharp. Along the way, birds watched him from the branches, and the wind carried with it the distant sound of laughter, perhaps a memory left behind by the Muses. Finally, at the very summit, nestled in a hollow between rocks older than any memory, he found it, a pool of midnight black clay, shimmering faintly in the dawn. Tiny sparks, like fragments of fallen stars, glinted on its surface, glowing even in the shadow of the peak. When Hephaestus pressed his hand into the clay, he felt it stir, warm and alive, trembling with a secret energy. In that instant, he knew he had found the heart of his quest. He collected the precious clay, wrapping it in linen, his mind racing with possibilities. But as he turned to descend, a sudden breeze swept over the mountaintop, carrying with it a deep understanding. To shape such a material would require more than his usual skill. It would demand a fire hotter and purer than any he had ever conjured, a fire touched by both love and daring, by hope and pain. Hephaestus looked out over the world, the shining rivers, the sleeping valleys, the endless sky, and understood that his journey was far from over. Ahead lay new challenges, new wonders. But with the enchanted clay in his hands, and the blessing of the Muses in his heart, he was ready to try. And so, beneath the endless blue, the young god set his sights on Olympus, ready to face the next trial, whatever it might be. With the fragment of starborn clay pressed close to his heart, Hephaestus descended deeper than ever before, beneath the very roots of Olympus, into the ancient veins of the earth where the world's oldest fire still pulsed and raged. Here, the land was alive, breathing with every tremor, and with every step the young godsmith took, he felt the heat grow stronger, the cave walls quiver in time with the pounding of elemental power. The darkness here was not silent. Luminous crystals glittered in the stone, casting eerie reflections that danced across the cavern ceilings. Between the rocks, rivers of molten lava flowed, their orange glow illuminating the tunnels and filling the air with a low, eternal rumble. These were the fiery rivers that fed the forges of Olympus, a primordial current, older than any god's memory. Hephaestus moved through the underworld with care and awe. The sound of his footsteps mingled with the hiss of fire and the low hum of unseen spirits. Only the faint, gentle light of the starlit clay he carried kept the shadows at bay. Each pulse of its glow was like a silent heartbeat, a promise of beauty yet to be revealed. In the depths, he was not alone. From the flickering light, ancient spirits of fire emerged, phantom figures, shifting and insubstantial, their eyes burning with secret wisdom. Some circled Hephaestus with suspicion, testing his courage, posing riddles about the nature of heat, creation, and change. "What is the true gift of fire?" one shadowy elder asked, her voice crackling like a spark. "To create or to destroy?" Hephaestus, steady and humble, replied, "Fire's true gift is transformation. In its heart, everything finds a new shape, a sword, a star, or a soul. The fire gives, and the fire takes, but above all, it changes." The spirits nodded, satisfied. Others among them offered help, sharing ancient secrets passed from the first flames of the world. "See the hidden colors in the fire," they whispered. "Learn to listen, not just to the roar, but to the song at its core. In every spark, there is a memory of creation itself." Hephaestus listened intently, absorbing the lessons as he pressed onward. Eventually, he reached the grandest of all caverns, a place where the fiery river widened into a glowing, mirrored lake, its surface rippling with molten gold and silver. Here, the heat was nearly unbearable, but the godsmith stood firm, knowing his quest had brought him to the threshold of true creation. He began the ancient ritual, handed down from forgotten ages and whispered to him in the voices of the Muses. Carefully, Hephaestus lowered the enchanted clay into the glowing lava. As he did so, he spoke incantations shaped by his journey and dreams, prayers woven with the music of inspiration and the strength of his heart. The fiery spirits circled him, their forms rising and falling with the currents of the molten lake. The air shimmered with magic. The clay, once dark and silent, began to change, its surface flickered with silvery light, soft as moonbeams and warm as a gentle hearth. Deep within, the memory of falling stars and the touch of Olympus' eternal flame awoke, blending into something wholly new. When Hephaestus finally retrieved the clay, it no longer felt like earth in his hands. It glowed from within, pulsing with living fire, neither stone nor metal, but a living vessel, carrying both the memory of stars and the power of Olympus' oldest flame. He realized, with quiet wonder, that he now held in his hands the heart of his creation, a substance worthy of the gods and the dreams of Muses. But the journey was not yet complete. The spirits, fading into the shadows, reminded him, every fire needs its root, every creation its home. Seek the wisdom of Gaia, mother of all, for only she can reveal the last secret of shaping a star from the bones of earth." Hephaestus thanked them, his spirit blazing brighter than ever. With the living clay in hand, he prepared himself for the next trial, a meeting with Gaia, the earth goddess herself, whose ancient counsel could unlock the final mysteries of creation. And so, beneath the eternal mountains, as the fiery rivers continued their ageless flow, Hephaestus pressed onward, ready to bring light from darkness, wonder from the heart of the world. Night wrapped the mountain in its deepest silence. No bird stirred in the thickets, no breeze dared disturb the sleeping trees. Climbing out from the fiery caves, Hephaestus emerged onto the dew-damp slope, the precious, glowing clay clasped in his hands. All around him, the air shimmered with the scents of wild herbs, moss, and cool earth. The sky was a dome of midnight blue, scattered with distant stars, watching, waiting. Then, without warning, the very ground beside him trembled softly, and from the living earth arose Gaia herself. She was vast yet gentle, her presence both awe-inspiring and familiar, like the steady pulse of the world beneath one's feet. Her skin held the hues of fertile soil and fresh green shoots, and her eyes, deep, ageless, filled with a kindness that knew every sorrow and joy the earth had ever seen. Hephaestus bowed, but Gaia only smiled with a mother's pride and a spark of curiosity. She knelt beside him, her fingers brushing over the star-bright clay, and the place where she touched it seemed to breathe with new life. "My grandson," Gaia's voice was low, a song older than mountains, "what do you seek in this deep night? Why do you wish to awaken such light within this humble clay?" Hephaestus hesitated, but then spoke from the heart. He told her of his dream, not merely to craft another tool or weapon for the gods, but to shape a star for Olympus. A work that would carry warmth and hope, unite the gods and mortals in wonder, and be a song of beauty and balance, a symbol of all the world's harmony. Gaia listened in stillness, her gaze searching his soul. At last, she nodded, a softness in her voice like water over stones. "Remember this, child of fire and earth, in every creation, there is a piece of the Creator's soul. For this star clay to truly shine, you must fill it with a dream you have never confessed, even to yourself. Only then will its light be more than a reflection, only then will it kindle new fire in other hearts." She leaned closer, her hair flowing with the scent of rain and roots, and began to share with Hephaestus the oldest secrets of shaping living clay. She sang ancient songs of the earth, teaching him melodies that called up spring from winter's sleep and ripened the wheat beneath the sun. Her hands showed him how to mix stardust with pure spring water, how to knead in the breath of the wind and the hush of night. Each lesson was a gift, each word a blessing. "Your hands are strong," Gaia said, "but your spirit is stronger. Craft with love, with honesty, and with courage. Let your star hold not just light, but hope. I will watch over you, and the earth will rise to meet your every step." With a gentle touch, she blessed both Hephaestus and the enchanted clay, imbuing them with the quiet resilience of the mountain and the endless patience of the world. Then, as the first pale blue of dawn touched the eastern sky, Gaia faded back into the earth. Hephaestus remained on the mountainside, changed and uplifted. In his hands, the clay seemed warmer, almost eager, alive with promise. In his heart, inspiration burned brighter than any forge fire he had ever known. He gazed toward Olympus, understanding that he now possessed not only the material for his masterpiece, but the wisdom and courage to bring it to life. The most vital part of his journey, the act of creation itself, awaited him. Blessed by Gaia and guided by a new strength within, Hephaestus understood that one final ingredient was needed to complete his creation, a handful of true stardust. It was a gift that could not be forged in any furnace or dug from the earth, it must be found where sky and soul touch, where longing and clarity meet under the eyes of the cosmos. So, in the heart of a moonless night, Hephaestus began his climb to the highest peak of Olympus. The air grew thin and sharp, every breath crisp with the taste of snow and ancient wind. Above him stretched a tapestry of stars, so close they seemed to whisper secrets from their distant fires. The world below faded into shadow, leaving only Hephaestus, the rocks beneath his feet, and the boundless sky. He found a seat among the ancient stones, where the wind had carved silent grooves and moss grew in silvery tufts. There, surrounded by the hush of the heights, Hephaestus closed his eyes and listened. He listened not just with his ears, but with the heart Gaia had called to life. He heard the whispering of grass bent by the night breeze, the distant call of a hunting owl, the gentle crackle of frost forming on stone. The entire mountain seemed to breathe in rhythm with him, and he felt utterly present, vulnerable, yet open. Hephaestus remembered Gaia's words, "True star dust is not found in darkness or stone, but in a heart willing to dream, to let go, and to trust." So he let his thoughts drift, floating on the currents of the night. Memories rose like embers, his earliest days, when he first shaped copper into beauty, the quiet ache of solitude, the unexpected joy of creation, the gentle guidance of Muses, the patient wisdom of Gaia. He saw again the laughter of the gods, the lonely fires of his workshop, and the secret hope that one day, he might craft something that would shine for all, something that would bring light to the darkest night. As he opened his eyes, the sky itself seemed to respond to his honesty. High above, the stars began to move, 1,000 sparks dancing across the vault of night. It was a meteor shower, a river of light streaming from horizon to horizon, the heavens celebrating with him. One star, brighter than the rest, broke free from its path and arced downward, trailing fire and song. Hephaestus watched in awe as it fell, not with fear, but with a sense of deep welcome, as if this was a meeting long destined. The star touched the earth near his feet in a burst of silent brilliance, scattering a handful of shimmering dust that glowed with every color of the rainbow. He knelt, reverent, and reached out. The stardust was lighter than air, yet heavy with magic. In his palm, it sang with warmth, coolness, memory, and hope. Hephaestus gave thanks to the sky, to Gaia, to the unseen muses who had walked with him on every path. With careful hands, he blended the stardust into his enchanted clay. The two materials merged as if born for one another, earth and sky, fire and dream, united in a single luminous vessel. In that moment, Hephaestus knew he held the power to create something new in the world, something that would never fade, even when the gods themselves slept. With a heart overflowing, he began his descent from the mountain, ready at last for the final act of creation. Behind him, the meteor shower faded, but a single streak of light lingered on the horizon, a promise that the world was about to be changed forever. Hephaestus descended from the heights of Olympus, his heart alight with promise, his hands full of sacred material, the enchanted clay blended with pure stardust. By the time he returned to his hidden workshop, the first silver blush of morning crept along the sky, though down here, in the realm of creation, time seemed suspended, day and night alike surrendered to the magic of the forge. He laid the precious clay upon his workbench, watching as it shimmered in the dim light, softly pulsing with energy both earthly and celestial. The fires of his forge roared nearby, their breath warm and eager, and the stones of the workshop, so familiar, now seemed to lean in, expectant, as if every wall and anvil wished to witness what was about to unfold. Hephaestus took a deep breath. This was the moment for which all his searching, all his lessons and longings, had prepared him. Yet, the act of creation, especially of something wholly new, would never be simple. He began with care, shaping the clay into small, perfect spheres. Each one fit into his palms, cool and pliable, infused with the mysterious sparkle of the heavens. He remembered the old songs of the Muses, gentle melodies that floated through his mind and steadied his hands. Humming softly, he pressed, rolled, and smoothed, feeling the harmony of touch and breath. He placed the first spheres upon the great anvil and readied them for the fire. The moment the flames licked the edges of the star clay, he watched with anxious hope. But the task was more difficult than any mortal or immortal craft he'd known. The first attempt cracked under the heat, splitting with a quiet, mournful sound. The next one dulled, losing its light to the fierce blaze, and others fell to dust, unable to bear the intensity. Each failure stung. For a moment, Hephaestus felt a flicker of doubt, the kind he had known in childhood, alone in the shadows of the gods. Was he asking too much of earth and sky? Could he really call down the light of the stars and make it live on Olympus? But he would not let despair win. He recalled Gaia's gentle lessons, the challenge from the Muses, and above all, the hope he had carried up the mountain and back. He listened to the rhythm of his heart, let it guide his touch. As he worked, he found a balance, not too much pressure, not too much heat, not only the discipline of a craftsman, but the tenderness of a dreamer. Time slipped away. The forge glowed, casting strange, shifting shadows. The workshop filled with quiet songs, Hephaestus's own voice, rising and falling like the memory of the wind on the mountain. He allowed himself to try, and try again, each attempt guided by a little more wisdom, a little more patience. And then, when he least expected it, something changed. One of the star spheres, cradled in the embers, held its shape and color. It began to glow from within, at first gently, then brighter, as though a pocket of midnight had bloomed into its own small galaxy. Tiny sparks lit up the heart of the clay, swirling like the distant constellations above Olympus. It radiated a cool, steady light, more profound than gold, more tender than fire. Hephaestus lifted the sphere with trembling hands, scarcely daring to breathe. The star was warm to the touch, yet weightless, and it pulsed with a life of its own. All at once, the workshop was filled with a quiet, luminous music, a harmony that seemed to flow from the heart of the star itself. It was a small miracle, not the final act, not the masterpiece he dreamed of, but the first, crucial step. Hephaestus knew, deep inside, that the journey was far from over. There would be more trials, more doubt and discovery, but now there was proof, even in the darkest forge, a new star could be born. And so, as the sun rose above the clouds outside, casting shafts of gold into the hidden corners of Olympus, Hephaestus stood in the hush of his workshop, the newborn star cradled in his hands, and felt, perhaps for the first time, the fullness of possibility. Hephaestus sat in the glow of his forge, the first star of clay resting gently in his hands. Its quiet, inner light danced across his palms, sending fleeting reflections into the shadowed corners of the workshop. Yet, as the embers sighed and the world outside stirred with the coming dawn, a heaviness pressed upon his heart. For a moment, doubt crept in, as persistent as the mountain winds. Was his creation truly worthy of Olympus? Could a star, born not in the heavens but in the hands of a solitary smith, ever shine with the same power and beauty as those that glimmered high above? All the failures, the broken clay, the night spent alone with only the forge for company, whispered at the edges of his mind. He thought of Aphrodite, her gaze always searching for perfection, her laughter light as the breeze. Would she see only the flaws in his work, the uneven curve, the trembling pulse of newness? Or would she see the courage it took to try? Hephaestus's fingers closed a little tighter around the fragile star. For a moment, he was tempted to hide it away, to let it gather dust in the forgotten depths of his workshop, a secret kept safe from judgment, never exposed to the cruel light of expectation. But as he gazed into the flickering fire, a gentle current moved through the room, stirring the air with the scent of wildflowers and parchment. A soft hum drifted through the shadows, and then, like dawn breaking after a long night, the Muses appeared. They did not arrive with thunder or glory, but with warmth and gentle purpose. Clio, the keeper of memory, knelt beside Hephaestus and spoke softly, "Even the greatest artists have doubted themselves. All beginnings are fragile, all wonders born of questions." Her words wrapped around him like a familiar melody, a reminder that even legend started with uncertainty. Euterpe, the muse of music, began to hum a tune, a quiet, yearning song that held both the ache of loneliness and the golden thread of hope. The music wove itself into the air, dancing with the firelight, softening the edges of Hephaestus's worry. Polyhymnia, whose voice was as deep as the midnight sea, smiled and offered a different wisdom: give your star more than light. Give it a story. Let it hold a song of its own, a fragment of your journey, your dreams, your longing. A true creation is never only form or color, but soul. Hephaestus felt their encouragement settle within him. In their presence, his burdens grew lighter, the fears that had threatened to drown him now seemed almost small. He remembered the first time he'd shaped a piece of metal, the joy of turning chaos into order, and the way creation was always an act of both faith and rebellion. He looked again at the clay star, seeing it not as a collection of failures, but as the first note in a symphony he had not yet written. Perhaps it was not perfect, perhaps it never could be. But it was alive, pulsing with the fire and the doubt, the pain and the hope, of its maker. Hephaestus stood, straightening his shoulders. "Thank you," he whispered, voice rough with gratitude. The Muses smiled, their forms shimmering like moonlight on water, and for a moment the whole workshop seemed to hum with unseen energy. In that gentle, golden light, Hephaestus set to work again. Now, his hands were steadier, his mind clearer. He understood, the greatest creations were always born of both struggle and inspiration. He would not simply make a star, he would give it a purpose, a melody, a place in the tapestry of Olympus. The final ritual awaited him, and this time he felt ready. He would craft a star not just of clay and fire, but of memory, song, and hope, a star that could shine even in the deepest night, because it carried within it the story of every doubt overcome. As the Muses faded into the shadows, their voices lingered in the air, a promise that Hephaestus would never again have to face the darkness alone. Night shrouded Olympus in a cloak of swirling cloud and shadow. Far below the glittering palaces, in the hidden forge where fire danced along stone walls and the air hummed with secrets, Hephaestus prepared for the most daring act of his life. The star of clay, his labor and longing, rested at the heart of the workshop. Its surface shimmered faintly, remembering the warmth of his hands and the caress of Muses' songs. The forge was silent, save for the gentle crackle of embers and the soft rhythm of Hephaestus's breath. He moved with care, setting the clay star within a circle of gleaming crystals and shining metals, relics collected over countless years of toil. Each fragment, each sparkling facet, bore witness to 1,000 old stories and 1,000 hopes yet unspoken. Hephaestus closed his eyes. The words of Gaia echoed in his heart, every creation must carry a living dream. He recalled the comfort of the Muses, the spark of memory, the wild flight of inspiration. Standing before his creation, he spoke the ancient words, prayers to the hidden powers of earth and sky, to the spirit within all things made by loving hands. His voice rang softly through the workshop, summoning echoes from the very bones of the mountain. Then, lifting his gaze to the vaulted darkness above, he called out, not just to the earth, but to the heavens. He called to Zeus himself, king of gods and bringer of storm, asking for the final gift, the bolt of life, the fire of creation that only the sky could give. Far above, the clouds boiled and surged. Wind swept the mountaintop, and Olympus trembled with the approach of a storm. The gods felt it, waking in their palaces, the nymphs shivered, the animals in the forests pressed close together as thunder cracked from peak to peak. The forge, for a breathless moment, became the center of the world. A single flash of lightning, fierce, white, and pure, tore down through the clouds. It struck the roof of Hephaestus's workshop, splitting stone, rushing along veins of metal and crystal, finding the clay star at the center of the sacred circle. The world seemed to hold its breath. Time slowed. For a heartbeat, all of Olympus was silent. The star drank the lightning's power. Light poured through the clay, filling every tiny crack, every fleck of celestial dust, every memory of longing and hope. The workshop erupted in brilliance. The clay glowed, then pulsed, then shuddered as if waking from a dream. And then, it shone. Not the cold, distant shine of the stars in the sky, but a living, radiant light, warm, soft, filled with color and music. From its heart, faint harmonies drifted out, as if the Muses themselves were singing through it. Every surface in the forge reflected its glow. Shadows retreated, darkness softened. Hephaestus could see his hands, calloused and scarred, reflected in the star's light, and in that light, all the pain and loneliness of his long nights seemed to dissolve. For a long moment, the god simply stood there, awed, exhausted, amazed. The star hovered just above the anvil, spinning gently, scattering sparks that tasted of rain and memory. It was, at last, alive. Its light was its own, a gift to Olympus, a miracle born not from pride or power, but from the quiet hope and stubborn heart of the most unlikely of gods. Hephaestus reached out, his hand trembling, and cradled the star. Its warmth spread through him. He heard again the voices of Gaia and the Muses, the laughter of old friends, the thunder of Zeus. In this one, perfect creation, all their gifts had come together, the earth's endurance, the fire's will, the music of inspiration, and the storm's electric birth. He knew what he had made was no mere decoration, no ornament for the gods' amusement. It was a beacon, a source of joy, wonder, and hope, not only for the immortals, but for the world below. The star would shine above Olympus, a light to guide lost travelers, to comfort the sorrowful, to inspire every heart that dared to dream. Outside, the storm faded. The winds calmed. High on Olympus, dawn crept over the peaks, painting the sky in gold and violet. Hephaestus, star in hand, stepped from his forge into the quiet of the new day. Dawn was merely a promise on the horizon as Hephaestus emerged from his forge, the star cradled gently in his hands, wrapped in a shimmering cloth woven from moonlight and memory. The world was quiet after the storm, and in the hush of the mountain, every footstep rang clear and true. The ascent to Olympus was steep, but the godsmith's heart felt light. The burden of solitude had lifted, replaced by a quiet pride and a childlike hope. Along the marble steps, the Muses awaited him, each one radiant in the pale morning glow. They bowed their heads with laughter in their eyes and offered blessings in whispered songs. Clio traced blessings of history upon his brow, Terpsichore danced in silent encouragement, and Calliope gifted a single word, bravo. Even Gaia, veiled in drifting clouds above, smiled her ancient, gentle approval, a cool wind ruffling Hephaestus's hair. Olympus itself seemed to hold its breath. In the grand hall, gods and goddesses assembled beneath vaulted ceilings of gold and alabaster. The tables overflowed with nectar and ambrosia, but none touched a single drop. Anticipation hung thicker than incense, every immortal waiting for a sign, for the moment when something truly new would grace their eternal home. Hephaestus entered quietly, but every gaze turned to him, the strong, awkward god so often overlooked, now the bearer of mystery and hope. His hands, calloused and clever, unfolded the moonlit cloth, revealing the star. A hush fell over the assembly. The star's gentle radiance spilled into the chamber, warm and alive, not blinding but inviting, like the first rays of sun after a long, sleepless night. It bathed the faces of the gods in soft gold, reflecting in their eyes, awakening memories and dreams long forgotten. Aphrodite's lips parted in wonder, her eyes sparkled with genuine admiration, touched by the delicate beauty. Apollo, master of light and song, nodded slowly, his gaze full of respect. He alone understood the balance of creation and inspiration in this miracle. Even stern Zeus, thunder still echoing in his presence, could not hide a smile of approval. Hera's eyes, proud and shrewd, softened as she watched Hephaestus, her son, stand tall at last. Then the Muses began to sing, a melody that rose and fell like a gentle breeze, weaving through the hall, lifting every spirit. In answer, the star responded, its glow brightened, casting moving patterns of light that danced in time with the music. Ripples of color swirled across the walls and ceiling, as if the very night sky had come to celebrate among them. Every immortal felt it, a harmony settling over Olympus, a sense of peace and unity. Old grudges seemed distant, rivalries unimportant. For one perfect moment, all were bound together by the simple, profound magic of creation, by the gift that Hephaestus had made not out of pride, but out of longing, out of hope, out of love for the world and all its beauty. Hephaestus looked out over the assembly and saw awe, joy, gratitude. But deeper still, he felt a quiet happiness blossom within, a knowledge that he had brought something new into the world, something to comfort, to inspire, to light the way in dark hours. His dream had become reality, not only for himself, but for every soul, god or mortal, who might one day look up and see that star shining above Olympus. The celebration began softly, laughter and song filling the hall as the morning sun finally crested the mountain. The star's light blended with the dawn, and for once, even the gods themselves seemed a little more mortal, a little more gentle, a little more connected to the world below. And so, Hephaestus, once lonely and doubting, became the master not only of fire and forge, but of wonder, a creator whose dream would shine forever in the heavens. As the sky above Olympus blushes with the first silver of evening, the palace awakens to an energy unlike any other. The star forged by Hephaestus still glimmers in his hands, soft and gentle, but filled with the promise of 1,000 dawns. It is a light that feels alive, as if it listens, as if it breathes, as if it carries in itself every hope ever whispered to the night. Word of the new star travels quickly. Gods and goddesses gather in the great hall, their faces shining with curiosity and awe. Marble floors echo with footsteps, air shimmers with music and the perfume of laurel, honey, and wild thyme. The very walls of Olympus seem to pulse, waiting. Hephaestus enters quietly, the star cradled close to his heart. For a moment, all is silent, then the Muses begin to sing. Their voices spiral upwards, painting stories in the air, stories of longing and creation, of stars born in loneliness and wonder. Apollo strums his lyre, the notes glimmering like golden dew. Artemis, silent and luminous, touches the new star with her fingertips and smiles, a rare, honest smile that lingers in the memory. Zeus rises, his eyes softer than any have ever seen. He speaks not of thunder or command, but of dreams, the power to create, to change, to bring new warmth where coldness once lived. Tonight, he says, Olympus remembers what it is to hope. Tonight we honor Hephaestus, who dared to dream a new light into being. Aphrodite weaves roses and myrtle around the star, whispering blessings for every heart that will see its glow. Even Ares, always impatient, bows his head, acknowledging the gentle power that does not break, but heals. Dionysus laughs and raises his goblet, and laughter ripples through the hall, bright and free. As the celebration swells, the Muses lead the gods outside, onto a balcony where Olympus kisses the night. The new star is placed high above the palace, and as it rises, its light pours over mountains and valleys, through hidden groves and across the open sea. Its glow is soft but clear, painting the world in a silver that soothes tired eyes and restless spirits. In distant villages, shepherds and children see the new star and feel, without knowing why, that something beautiful has entered the world. Lovers make wishes beneath its light. Poets wake from dreams and write verses they don't yet understand. Even the oldest trees in the oldest forest stretch their branches toward the new brightness, grateful. On Olympus, the celebration becomes a gentle hush. The gods gather in a circle, feeling the warmth not only of the star, but of each other's company, of forgiveness, of patience, of old wounds quietly healing in the presence of something so tender and true. Hephaestus stands among them, no longer alone, the star reflecting in his eyes. The Muses sing one last lullaby, a song of beginnings and endings, of journeys made not for glory, but for the hope of sharing one's light. The wind carries their voices to the farthest corners of the world, and all who listen, even in their dreams, feel comforted. Tonight, Olympus is transformed. No bitterness, no rivalry, no longing remains, only peace, and the certainty that beauty grows from courage and kindness, from the willingness to believe in what the world has never seen before. As dawn touches the edge of the sky, the new star remains, the quiet heart of Olympus, a promise that even in the immortal halls of the gods, there is always room for something new, for gentle miracles, for the artistry of light born from the deepest longing. And as the world falls into a soft, dreaming sleep, the storyteller's voice, low and peaceful, closes the tale, so shines the gift of Hephaestus, the star that sings of hope, of courage, and of the endless power of a gentle dream. And may you, too, carry a little piece of that light in your own night, wherever your dreams may wander.